in my absence, you took over the reins and actually did something very cool. I found it. I listened to it actually a couple of times because, number one, the idea of what you did with the Podcaster Summit was cool.
Okay, cool.
Number two, the way that you got it set up for the audio, everybody was clean and clear, and there wasn't a big clusterfuck of everybody trying to talk over each other. And so being able to conference that many people on a mic and through, I'm going to use a technical term, through telephonic means.
All right.
To be part of the show and have a roundtable discussion like that and have it not be a big clusterfuck, that was pretty well done. So my hat's off to you there,
dude. If you saw the email or the Facebook message that I sent everybody, it was like reading a book on how I was doing it.
Well, I mean, it's necessary though.
Well, and it is, because honestly, if I hadn't done that, it would have been a clusterfuck. And I mean, I literally broke it down to, I'm going to ask a question, then I'm going to say this person's name or that person's name or whatever. And the way it was working here in the studio was I had everybody up on Messenger on the computer that was not here.
Right.
So I was kind of balancing between facing Joe and John and looking at the Messenger, and I'm pointing at people and telling people that, I would say, oh, so Mark, what do you think about that? And as soon as Mark started talking, I would be texting, okay, Victor, I'm going to go to you next. Okay. So everybody was ready and whatnot.
Well, good. Well, you know what the thing is that's what it takes to, do a successful broadcast. And you did very well, because I did listen to it because we were in the Hilton lobby. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't a whole lot going on at that time. So I pulled it up on the phone and listened to it, and I thought, wow, this is clean. It's clear. Everybody's got a good mic. It's organized, and people were ready. And, not knowing the backstory of how you arranged it, it makes a lot of sense that it turned out as well as it did.
Yeah, I was really happy with the way it went, and, that was my biggest nightmare. I mean, you know how it goes when I do solo shows. Most of the time, they're kind of a clusterfuck anyway, because I get a little too drunk and
what?
things fall apart.
That never happens.
I know. And believe me, I was a little too drunk last week too. Whew, at the end. But thankfully, I did not drink a whole bunch at the beginning, and it went really smooth. I was paranoid as fuck that it was going to be awful.
Right.
And then I was just like, man, that's a lot of people that I'm going to have to hang up on and just say, yeah, this ain't working. Fuck you.
Right.
And I was already committed to, if it was going bad, I was cutting my losses early. I was not going to make the listeners sit through 2 hours of, 8 people talking over each other.
Yeah. And of course, that was a concern of mine, when you told me what you were doing, because we did talk about it earlier in the week. I was just like, how are you going to coordinate that?
Yeah, it was definitely... For me, who doesn't plan anything with the show, it was a very well-planned thing, and I was testing all during the week with, multiple phones and shit to see how things all worked, and, but yeah, in the future, now I know how to do it. We can do a lot of stuff with that.
That's very cool. Well, good for you. Well, the subject material was good. The participants were good. I see that, a couple of the guys threw the audio out there on their own podcast feed, and
sure.
That kind of stuff. So that's kind of cool. And I'm glad that it turned out as well as it did. I was very pleasantly pleased to listen to it, and it was a good listen. And it wasn't, staticky, or, people weren't echoing and, not making good connection there. So you did good.
Thanks. Yeah, it went well. We're going to do more of those. I know some people. And it's funny, dude, like everything else with this show, I got a good amount of people that liked it. I got a good amount of people that hated it.
Yeah, well, you know what the thing is there wasn't a lot of ha-ha with it. But anybody who has any interest in podcasting, which there's a lot of fledgling guys out there that, I think Mark Striggle said it best. He said, I can do what you guys do.
Right.
And, well, why can't I do that? Well, we've proven over the years when we've torn podcasts apart, especially the guys who did it one time and go, they'd get on there in 10 minutes already, their material was all exhausted.
Right.
And they had nothing left.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, gee, it's a little harder to do a podcast than what I thought.
Yeah, it definitely is.
I mean, even you experienced that on your hiatus from the show when you tried to do that all the news.
Yeah, I mean, I was able to do it because Lord knows I can talk forever, but it wasn't fun. And that's another part of it, too, is if you're not having fun doing it, you really don't want to do it.
Yeah, it's true.
And that's, I mean, you heard the all the news things. They were okay. They were listenable, but you could tell I wasn't having a lot of fun.
Yeah, why would you have fun doing something too serious? There's no ha-ha with that, but it made the wife your roommate, or I
have no comment on that for legal reasons.
You wanted to keep your chops alive, but you didn't want to piss off the other inhabitant of your household.
Yeah, well, then sort of that didn't work, but
but you tried.
I did try.
You did try. I'll give you that.
Yeah, but yeah, dude, I thought it was good, and there is sort of a backstory around behind it, and it really has to do with not necessarily us, but the fact that we take on the Eddie Trunk stuff a lot. And I'm not saying that any of these guys had a problem with Eddie Trunk. None of them have really expressed that to me.
Sure.
But there is a definite feeling among the guys that we had on, and not on the show just because he was tied up with Nam, but was supposed to be on the show was Chris and Aaron from Decibel Geek as well.
All right.
And we all kind of have that same vibe of podcasting is really starting to take off now. And for the first time in, really since the beginning of talk radio, there is a shot for people that are not corporately sponsored to actually build something.
Sure.
That has, and we're a good example of it. Not that we have a huge audience or whatever, but for what we do, we have a big audience.
Well, for something that doesn't get advertised and nothing, and it doesn't solicit any, advertisers or anything. Yeah.
And because of that, there is a chance if you've got talent and you've got something different to say to make it. Well, the thought that I have is that, if we all work, sort of together, the ones that are doing it for real, not the guys that are doing something and it might start Tuesday at 10 and it might start Thursday at, 5 and it might not happen this week. The guys that are on a schedule, and I don't know if you noticed that, but everybody that I had has a pretty standard schedule.
Well, that's the only way to be successful, because if somebody's always hunting for your podcast, they're just going to lose interest in it.
They'll stop hunting.
Yep.
So that was kind of the goal, was to maybe start, and I want to do more of these, and you can obviously do one if you want to, or 2 or 5 or however many you want to do. But, the goal is to get us doing about 4 of these a year. Don't have to always be on our show.
Sure.
I would just like to do 3, 4 a year and share it with all the audiences. Because let's face it, if you add our audience, Talking Metal, Toomey's audience, Decibel Geek's audience, Victor's audience, even Nerf Herder Council audience, the Songcast audience, if you add all that together in a week, that's probably 100,000 or more people.
I would think so, because we're doing, and I know a lot of it is repeat people, but we're doing 100,000 downloads a month.
Right. And that's just us.
That's just us.
So, I know Decibel Geek does really well. I know Talking Metal still does really well. I know Toomey's up and coming. I know Ear Peeler does pretty well. Nerf Herder's good for like 5 or 6 listens a week. So, I mean, between all of that, we can, if we all are reaching each other's audiences, some people are going to hate, especially with me, because I am the polarizing one out of everybody. There's going to be people that are going to hate me.
All right, so what? But what fun is listening to something when there isn't something that shakes it up just a little bit? If it's just boring, just 4 or 5 guys just rambling on without a little bit of fire, a little bit of spark, it would just be a boring listen.
Exactly. My whole thought, though, is if we reach 50,000 new people that hear the podcast, hear the podcaster summit, and 20,000 hate me, that means 30,000 that would potentially like me, and 15 of it, half of that will come over and see what we're doing.
Right.
So that's the way you build an audience. And if we kind of, it's the old web ring thing. Remember the old web ring?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
It's that philosophy of, reach out to other people without selling out.
Right.
And that's kind of what my end game is with this thing. And we'll see if it goes somewhere or not. But regardless, that was the sane segment of the show.
Sure.
It sure did go the other way, though, didn't it?
Right. Yeah. Well, we'll get to that in just a second because I wanted to relate something to you. I don't know if you had seen it or not. But,
all right.
But there's a documentary out there on Netflix about National Lampoon.
No, I've not seen this.
I watched it today, and I was watching all the parallels, and this is by no way saying that what we do here on the Classic Metal Show is National Lampoon great.
Okay.
But they basically talked about how National Lampoon, the magazine, started, and then how it branched out into radio and movies and TV, and then of course a lot of the people who were involved in the early upstart of National Lampoon in the late 60s and into the early 70s became Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
And then of course then you had the Animal House movie, and then it went into other stuff, like the Caddyshack and things like that. And the number of people involved with that. But anyway, the point that I wanted to make here, you should watch it though. It's really a good documentary. But
sure.
Regardless of that, I watched the parallels, and it talks about everything that we talk about on the show, where the success and possible commercialization of the show goes. Mm-hmm. And basically what boiled down to it is that National Lampoon was a kind of an underground thing, because they were irreverent and they poked fun at things and made fun of sacred cows, and they often were considered racist, they were considered homophobic because they make all the jokes and all these other things. And the thing is that at number one, they couldn't get sponsors or advertisers for the magazine,
right,
because of the offensiveness of it.
Right.
Well, then one of these advertisers, one of these marketing guys came along and said, well, who are the people who read this magazine? Well, they're kind of the
degenerates.
Yeah, they're the degenerates. That's exactly what I was looking for. And obviously they probably drink.
Right.
And probably a lot of them smoke. And probably a lot of them, do all the bad things that that society frowns on. They have sex, and they probably are a little bit precarious with their lifestyle.
Right.
So those are the people that the guy went after. He went after the cigarette ads, and he went after the booze ads, and he went after the condom ads and the sex ads. And,
right.
And once people started seeing that the mainstream advertisers, such as Jose Cuervo or Marlboro, or those people were advertising, that opened up the floodgates for people to sponsor the magazine.
Right.
But here's the thing. The more they got successful, the more people wanted to glom on. And then it just destroyed the integrity of what the magazine started out to be.
Right.
Because they had to tailor themselves to that audience or to that advertiser.
Right.
And then it was no longer National Lampoon anymore.
Yeah, and it ruined it.
It ruined it. So that's exactly what happens, because they basically became too successful and it destroyed it.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. So if you get a chance to see that, you should watch it. It's a good documentary on that. But anyway, speaking of offensiveness, you did a segment on the show last week, Chris's new girlfriend. And I was getting texts from Nathan from Kentucky. He's like, are you going to fire Chris? Are you going to fire Chris? But see, here's the thing. What people got to realize is, yes, I started this show 21 years ago, and yes, I am the name holder and the the owner per se, but this is a partnership. And when I go away and do things on, away from the show and Chris takes over, I mean, that's up to his discretion to do what he has to do or wants to do. And, no, I'm not going to fire Chris. You're under contract, pal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was goofy. It was silly. It was fun, but it got people talking, I'm sure there's some people out there who was just like, that's not my thing. And other people were just, holy shit, dude, that was the greatest thing I ever heard in my life.
Oh yeah. There was a lot of mixed reactions.
Sure there was, of course.
There were a lot of people, including people that were literally sitting in this room with me, that thought I went way too far. With once she said that she was grieving from her brother dying,
right,
and I didn't stop, that's when everybody started going, oh, this is now officially dark.
But the thing is that you broke through that sacred cow, I guess. I don't know if you want to call that a sacred cow or not, but what society deems as proper.
Yeah, well, dude, you know me. I don't have a line.
Of course.
I have no line.
Of course. Well, see, that's the whole thing with and that's why I brought up the National Lampoons, and I wanted to, dovetail into that segment, is because they too did the exact same thing. They pushed that envelope to where it was just outright offensive.
Yeah, of course. And that was kind of the goal. And the funny thing is, I got 2 or 3 different messages this week, and I'll agree with the messages, although I won't agree with the context that they were used with. I got 2 or 3 messages this week that basically said, that segment sucked because you wouldn't do that with Neely. And I agree with that. Because I know you probably, I'm going to guess that you were like, okay, some of it's funny, some of it's not.
Yeah,
I'm going to guess.
I mean, I wasn't offended by it, or I was just like, oh my God, Chris is really wrecking thing. That never even occurred to me, because I actually listened to it live because I was driving back to the hotel when it was on. So I had it, piped through the car stereo and listening to it. And I got a couple of chuckles out of it, but it was like, that's Chris. I mean, this is your thing. You like that sick humor.
Right, exactly. And that was my whole point. That I actually had that. Remember 2 weeks ago I posted that picture of that hideous girl, and I didn't say anything about it. I just said, remember this face. Right. I posted it on Facebook.
Right.
That was Rhonda.
Okay.
And I knew then that I had this already going on. This chatting was already going on, but I also knew that this is not the kind of shit that me and you do.
Right.
And I knew that I had the solo thing coming up, and truthfully, the thought was that I was going to do it with Stephanie.
Okay.
But Steph was sick, so John just kind of subbed in, and it went the way I wanted it to go anyway, which is fine. But the point was, yeah, no shit, it wasn't what I would do with Neely.
Yeah, but the thing is people are so locked into, well, when I turn on the Classic Metal Show, this is what I want to hear. And then when it goes one way or the other, it's just like, well, that isn't what I wanted to hear.
Right, but it goes both ways for what you and I do, though. When you do a solo show, you do not do what we do.
Yeah, because I don't really have the access to character players the way that you do.
Right, and vice versa with me. I try to go away from what we do a little bit to make it something different, because the last thing in the world I ever want to hear is people with the, you should really start another show. Fuck off. I get so tired of people when they try to wedge in something, and for me, I when I do a solo show, I want to do something completely different than what we normally do.
Right.
Last week was a good example. What did we talk about? We had the dating, the Rhonda segment, which was completely different than what we normally do. We had the podcaster summit, which is completely different than what we normally would do. And we talked about prog metal for an hour,
right,
which again is something we wouldn't normally do.
Sure.
So I tried to take it out of the box purposely, and whatever. I mean, I thought the segment was funny as shit. because it played right into my humor base.
Right.
And I know there were many people that thought it was too dark. There were many people thought it was the greatest thing ever. I'm sort of in the middle. I think it was the best solo thing I've ever done. But, I don't think it's the best segment we've ever done.
Right.
I don't think it's the best thing that I've ever done on the Classic Metal Show. There's been plenty of shit. The fucking, what's his name? Grandpa with the singer guy with the picture.
Ian Hunter.
Ian Hunter was way funnier.
Yeah.
Ian Hunter was way funnier. Laser Wolves was way funnier.
Yeah, sure.
I can name them quickly off the top of my head, things that were definitely funnier. Dirt Talk with the sandwich on the floor, way funnier.
Yeah.
It's not a competition. And that's what I always wish people would get, is instead of emailing trying to do that wedge thing, just go with it. Okay, that's what we did this week. But now's it's like even this week, all week I've gotten, are you still talking to Rhonda? Yeah, I've gotten, literally, kid you not, 75 messages about Rhonda.
Right.
And I am. And, if you go somewhere again, I'll have another segment to do, maybe. And that's, we'll see. I mean, who knows? But,
sure.
Look, I do want to answer this. It's just a one-liner in the chat room, but I will mention it real quick. The Sebastian Bach video thing, did you hear that at all?
I didn't hear it. I did not listen to that, but, I do know about it.
I purposely did not publish that segment.
Yeah.
Because I saw that it was pulled with a cease and desist from DMCA.
Right.
And I made a command decision without checking with you that I didn't want to risk the podcast.
Yeah, well, I don't blame you. I mean, sometimes there are some things that run into legal issues or potentially legal issues, and I don't need to deal with that. Neither do you.
Yeah, and when we played the audio, there was no cease and desist. Then there was one, so I'm like, I think I'll just avoid this.
Right.
So that's why that segment did not go up. Eddie Rocks. So,
hail and kill, caller. You're on the air.
Well, one, this is a free show. People can choose to listen or not. I mean, I just don't. I don't get it. I don't get it. If people like you guys could be doing something else with this Saturday night. You don't have to do this, and you certainly don't have to do it for free. So I don't get what gives people the right to bitch.
Well, people have a right to bitch, but whether it's taken seriously or even taken into consideration is a whole nother story.
Right.
Yeah. And the second thing is, what's up with John?
John who?
Like, he was John who was on last week.
John Drake?
Yeah, he was just losing his mind.
Well, he was just happy to be heard on some that people actually listen to.
Well, no, but he was like, dude, you can't do this. You can't do this. I'm like, I just didn't get that either. But on the other side of the coin, that guy was singing there on last Saturday night, and Jesus Christ, he obviously can sing. Anyway, hail and kill.
Little props for John.
Did John sing?
I don't know.
Oh, I don't remember John singing.
Maybe it was just you pretending you were John singing Josie.
Oh,
no, vacation.
John did sing that. John did sing that for like one line. Okay.
I need your love tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'll tell you what the thing is with John. Here's the backstory, and you know this as well as I do. John wants to be outrageous, but he has much more of a moral compass than I do.
Sure.
So he comes prepared to be crazy, but then can't handle when it gets crazy.
Right. Well, the thing is that, John's a married guy. He's a stepdad. He's, he lives the normal existence per se.
Sure.
And the thing is that, I don't know enough about John and Stephanie's relationship, but he's got a wife to answer to. True.
And she was here. But yeah. I'll tell you what, if she would have been in here, she wouldn't have had a problem with any of it.
Well, regardless, I'm not saying that she would have. I'm just saying that in his moral compass, as you put it,
Right.
I'm sure that he has to justify his actions, regardless if it's show related or in life related,
right,
to other people, as to where you don't.
Yeah, well, I definitely don't.
Well, the thing is the reason why the show broke open when you returned is because you no longer had that governor on you.
Yeah, that is true.
So
I'm not allowed to speak on that legally.
Well, but that's the truth of the matter.
Yeah.
And I too got out of a business situation to where I had to be a little more careful.
Right.
And I don't have that situation anymore either. So both of us have kind of broken free of the chains. We've breaking the chains.
Right.
So, that's the reason why things are, that they have no filter.
No, they definitely don't.
So that's how it goes. But overall, sounds like you had a good time doing the show. I had a good time at NAMM. We're back, and the chat room is full, and people are hanging out and whatnot. So we're back to doing what we do.
Dude, let me just tell you real quick, and then we'll move on from this. But Joe shows up with a bag of booze.
A bag of booze, not a bag of dicks. A bag of booze.
Bag of booze. He had all of these. He didn't have a ton of booze. Like, he didn't bring like 30 beers or whatever, but he brought like four beers, but they were like these 12% IPAs or something.
All right.
And he brought a bottle of Jaeger that was, you've seen frozen Jaeger bottles.
Yeah, absolutely.
This wasn't a frozen Jaeger bottle. This was a bottle that was cut out of a chunk of ice. I mean, it wouldn't even sit on a table because it had a big old chunk of ice frozen to it.
All right.
I mean, literally, you couldn't hold it for it. Literally, the reason you couldn't chug it was because you couldn't hold it. You couldn't hold it for more than about 3 to 5 seconds to dump some in your fucking face.
Yeah. So what was it? Was it? Did he like put it in a bucket of water and freeze it, or was it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Or in this bag. I think he put it in this bag and put the whole bag in the freezer, and it like started to melt, but then the ice started to melt, but then kind of froze back. Something like that, because it was frozen solid. And oh my God, what's left of it is in my freezer right now, and it's literally about a shot and a half left. And John wasn't drinking, so it was really me and Joe drinking the Jaeger. And oh boy, did I pay for that on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm sure that wasn't a pleasant hangover.
No, because I was mixing and matching it. I'm drinking Miller Lights. I'm drinking these IPAs. I drank a shit ton of this Jaeger. Oh, I was paying for it, but it certainly got me in a silly mood.
Yeah, to say the least.
But anyway, yeah, it was a fun show. I'm glad that we're back doing what we do. As I always say, I hate to lead. All this technical mumbo jumbo shit, I fucking can't stand.
Well, I'm looking. I'm looking over here. I've got your component rack sitting here on the floor, which I'm going to bring to you, and it's going to relieve a lot of your technical difficulties for future shows when you have 2 and 3 people in the studio.
I like that because literally I spent half of my day Saturday plugging this in and that in and testing mics.
You're not going to have to do that anymore.
What a fucking hassle. And then spending the whole day. The worst was I didn't have anybody to call to just listen to the stream so I could test mic volumes. So I'm sitting here with my iPhone with one headphone in one ear, trying to talk on the microphone, which of course comes across 35, 40 seconds later on the stream. So I'm talking and then I'm waiting and I'm listening and then I'm hearing it echoing through. Oh, it was a fucking nightmare.
Yeah. Well, what I got for you here is going to relieve all of that.
Like that. So
you're gonna like it. You're due for an upgrade, and I finally was able to get you a nice 4-component rack space here with some nice. You'll get your mic processor back, and a limiter compressor, and a mic mixer, and it's all good.
You know how much I like a nice rack.
Yes, of course. You had one at your house last week, but unfortunately it passed out on you.
Yeah, she was sick, but sick or not, she's one that I think I would probably bang while she was puking.
Nice.
Stephanie's tits are fucking something else.
Sure.
Jesus Christ, are they good?
Uh-huh.
You know, and for whatever reason, the wall hasn't hit her yet.
Right.
You know, she's in her whatever she is, but you know, she's in her 40s or late 30s or whatever Steffi is, and doesn't. I mean, you've seen her. Does not look at all like the wall found her, does it?
Yeah, I hear you.
It's like she's ducked around it.
All right, dude. Well, it's time for a drink, so we're gonna jump off of here, and I'm gonna play a tune that you sent over.
All right.
Psycho Kiss.
Yeah, this is a band that I honestly think you will like a ton. It's a chick singing band, but the chick sounds a lot like Jeff Keith from Tesla.
Okay, so she's kind of got that raspy thing going on.
Yeah, it's kind of like a chick that sounds like Tesla, sort of. Tesla meets Janice.
Okay.
So, and I'm digging the shit out of the record. It is so good. So I threw you one of the tunes, and I'm digging it a lot.
All right, excellent. All right, well, we are live here on the Classic Metal Show. If you're listening to us on any of our outlets, be it Uncontrolled Noise or the Spreaker, we do have a live chat room going on. If you've never joined us in the chat room, just go over to chatandkill.com. chatandkill.com and sign in with any of your social media sign-ins, be it the Twitter, Facebook, Chatwing, Google Plus, etc., etc. Just be a part of the show and be a part of the madness. And we're going to play a couple of tunes. We're going to be back and get into it. So here it is. The name of the band is Psycho Kiss.
Yes.
And the name of this tune is just called Down, exclusively here
on your Classic Metal Show.